So first of all, the major pro is that everything is auditable. So you can be sure that what's actually running is what you know that's running because you've seen the code, and or maybe someone that you trust and is an expert has seen the code and audited it. That gives you like security and trust in the mechanism. So I don't think that the whole like Bitcoin Web3 revolution could have happened without the code being open source. So yeah, privacy doesn't mean that it's not auditable. Doesn't mean that you can't completely trace the money. Like on the exit points, like to exchanges and to banks and stuff like that, these things are still private. So just inside networks like Secret, Monero, and Zcash, stuff are private inside. It's maybe convenient that like in Bitcoin and Ethereum and every other blockchain out there, everything is public. So it's easy to trace the entire history of transaction of everyone. But in my opinion, it's a bug and not a feature.
Welcome to this RTD interview. Today, I'm excited to have a first-time guest, Mr. Assaf Morami. He is a blockchain engineer for the Secret Network organization. And today he's here to share his thoughts on the importance of privacy, as well as all the other opportunities in the distributed ledger technology space. So Assaf, thank you for joining us on RTD interviews.
Hi, thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you for taking time to sit down with us. And definitely looking forward to getting your thoughts on, the state of the whole blockchain technology, where it's at, what version are we in now, where is it heading? And, on my side, really want to touch on the importance of giving people a well-rounded viewpoint between open source as well as the alternatives dealing with privacy, because I think that's really important when you're talking about trying to use, this type of technology for financial transactions or whatnot. But before we dive into that, if you don't mind, can you share with us a little bit of your background and how you've arrived at this point in your career?
Yeah, so hi, my name is Assaf Morami. I'm a software engineer, a blockchain engineer at Secret Labs, which is the core team behind Secret Network, which is a layer 1 blockchain based on from the Cosmos family of blockchains, which provides basically privacy for smart contracts. So inputs, outputs, and state of smart contracts is encrypted, which opens a whole range of new possibilities for developing smart contracts, because now you have privacy. So on DeFi applications, on AMMs, for example, you can do private swaps. You get by default protections against MEV, miner extracted value, because inputs to transactions are private. On money markets, you get private positions. On gaming, for example, you can implement games of incomplete information like poker, for example, or blackjack and stuff like that. So in the past 3 years, I've been developing a Secret Network in Secret Labs. And before that, I was in the Israeli military doing cybersecurity work. So basically defending against nation states. And that's all I can share.
Sounds good. No, I appreciate you for sharing that. And so just wanted to give you a chance to, introduce yourself to the audience and just give a little bit of your background. So I appreciate that. So, at this current moment, we're experiencing the continual push towards the decentralized space. And so the distributed ledger technology has, become a mainstream topic, mainstream as well as an alternative media space. And so open source and, being able to verify the code, permissionless transactions, all those buzzwords there are starting to really excite a lot of people. There's pros and cons to it. And so based upon, your, background working on privacy, what are some things that you think can be done differently or perhaps better when it comes to the open source protocols that provides, complete transaction transparency and things of that nature? What's some pros and possibly some cons?
Yeah, Yeah, that's a good question. So first of all, the major pro is that everything is auditable. So you can be sure that what's actually running is what you know that's running because you've seen the code, and or maybe someone that you trust and is an expert have seen the code and audited it. And that gives you like security and trust in the mechanism. So I don't think that the whole like Bitcoin Web3 revolution could have happened without the code being open source. And of course, cons like against open source is that it's easier to find bugs and to hack the system, so to speak. So we've been seeing a lot of hacks recently on DeFi protocols, on bridges, and like the wormhole hack and stuff like that. The whole Terra Luna collapse. You can say that it was an attack on the protocol, which was open source. So the attackers know how to find weakness in the protocol, for example.
Right. So it sounds like, open source, has the benefit of a person who actually knows how to, I guess, read code. You can verify by being able to see in real time all the inputs and all the coding and whatnot. But for your average person that's not able to read code, don't know anything from the technical side, those are the people who have bought in with the trust. Like, you got just trust the code. And then there's that motto that says that code is law. But then again, if you can't read it, should you really trust it in its entirety? So what would you recommend for people who are not developers or not coders when it comes to trust? Like, what are some things that I guess could help people out when it comes to trusting, this code?
It's a tough question. So I guess like there are a lot of experts who do read the code and do audit the code and then write blog posts and write papers about it. So I think with time and a lot of experts going over the code, the like normal people who don't know how to code, how to read code, acquire more trust in the system, I think.
Now, I'm curious to get your thoughts on, a part of the open source side of things is as you mentioned, I guess the ability to audit the code. On the other side of that, I know as far as the law enforcement and the using the forensic technologies that makes it very challenging to transact without everything being known. And so based upon like you coming from the security world, when it comes to being able to track and trace activity, that definitely concerns me. That's why, part of this conversation is to, try to work around that. But, the forensic companies are set up to where they are able to see everything from the first time the coin is mined all the way into its last transaction. And so that has to be a concern for some. But what are your thoughts on that? Like, I'm assuming that's how you probably got into wanting to pursue privacy, I assume.
Yeah, so that's a complex question, so we might need to unpack it a bit. But first of all, I think that you will agree with me that privacy is important. Like, that's a reason that you have a door in your house and in certain rooms in your house, and that you wear clothes, and that you don't go everywhere with like and advertise your bank account and your recent transactions on bank account. So privacy, I think, is important to a lot of people. Now, I think that you're referring to criminals that like launder money and buy guns and drugs and stuff like that. So yeah, privacy doesn't mean that it's not auditable, and doesn't mean that you can't completely trace the money. Like on the exit points, like to exchanges and to banks and stuff like that, these things are still private. So just inside networks like Secret, Monero, and Zcash, stuff are private inside. But once you need to cash out, then it becomes public again. So yeah, there's a trade-off there, and it's a complex issue. And yeah, it's maybe convenient that like in Bitcoin and Ethereum and every other blockchain out there, everything is public. So it's easy to trace the entire history of transaction of everyone. But in my opinion, it's a bug and not a feature.
That's one of the things I also say is that, it's a feature for people who are looking to reconfirm trust, but then it's against a flaw when it comes to the authorities and all the other regulatory issues that might come about with them being able to see things. And so I'm curious, as of right now, there's approximately, I forgot the last count, say just 10,000 different networks or coins or forks of projects. Not all of them will last in the long run because some of them offer utility, some do not. But the overwhelming majority of this space happen to be open source where they're publicly visible, code transactions. And then there's a small amount of more privacy focused ones. Do you see the day where the privacy protocols surpass the open public ones just out of sheer demand for privacy, or what are you thinking?
Like, hard to tell because the vast majority right now does not offer privacy. But I think, like you said, chains that don't offer utility will probably won't last. So in my opinion, privacy can bring a lot of utility because now you can implement a lot of new applications that are not possible anywhere else. If we're talking about gaming, about NFTs, about healthcare, about more complex DeFi protocols, more complex money markets and AMMs and stuff like that. So yeah, and even like a good example we have is Quentin Tarantino, which chose to mint NFTs on Secret Network, and now Kevin Smith is also minting NFTs on Secret Network because of the privacy features, because the ability to give to the NFT buyers like a private showing of the movie before everyone else.
Moving forward, we have the decentralized space, and then we also have the rebranding of our current national currencies in the form of central bank digital currencies. And I'm assuming everyone can agree that, those are not going to be they're not going to be overall private in a sense. They'll be private as far as the retail space, but on the back end of that, I'd imagine because of the programmable features in it, governments and authorities and regulatory bodies will be able to see and transact. Do you think that will be a problem moving forward to where people will prefer to stick with the decentralized coins and projects rather than be forced to just use CBDCs as they're rolled out across the world?
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with that, but I'm assuming that privacy might become an issue for a lot of people, especially if it's like if the government is using it in a way that the people don't like.
Now, do you think, like, also with that, as the CBDCs are rolled out, which is the government's way of trying to help with rebranding the currency, that the privacy focused projects such as Secret and Monero and all the other projects might have a little bit of a regulatory uphill battle as far as some type of changing in the laws or something like that? Is that something that, you and your colleagues, think about or worry about?
Not really. Like, privacy does not mean that things are not auditable. Like all of us I can see my own transactions, which are private. And at the end of the year, like I get a summary of all of them and submit to the IRS. Law-abiding citizens can still get privacy, but also submit like their tax reports and be like open with the authorities as far as they need to be open.
Right.
So I don't think that's an issue for us, at least.
Right. Sounds good. So it sounds like, there's, overall there's privacy for in particular for Secret, what you're working on now, but then also you can also provide some transparency if need be based upon your transaction history that you can see and use to submit for whatever, documentation might be needed. That's good. So I'm curious to get your thoughts moving forward. When it comes to Secret, I guess what brought about that project? And I know you guys are on the Cosmos ecosystem, but yet a couple years ago, give us some rundowns and some utilities for utilizing the secret network.
Secret has been live since 2020. Private smart contracts, we're calling them secret contracts, are live since September of 2020, so nearly 2 years now. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of teams coming to Secret from Ethereum and from other chains because they need something with privacy. Maybe it's a small feature, maybe their entire thesis is around like privacy, but we see teams that need it. So for example, like I mentioned before, on DeFi, you get front-running resistant by default because inputs are private. So bots and arbitrageurs can't see the inputs before you and like sandwich the transaction and extract value still from you. On money markets, lending protocols, your positions are private. So for example, the whole Celsius scenario that you mentioned earlier, it's not possible because the position would be private, so people won't know how to like get them liquidated. They won't know the liquidations level.
Right.
Same thing with 3 Arrow Capital, yeah.
Yeah. So that with the Celsius situation, because I do follow that, and to see that, because it's public knowledge, you can see exactly what their wallet is holding. And as you mentioned, if you're trying to deliberately cause issues with Celsius, how much they're working with and whatnot. So that's definitely something that's going to be need to be addressed, I'm assuming, moving forward, because that right there is very dangerous for a lot of financial companies as they get into the blockchain space. But then again, on the other side, being able to have some privacy definitely helps. Now, so it looks like as of now, because the blockchain technology is here and there's different protocols and the consensus side of things, you guys are proof of stake with the ability to stake and part of the Cosmos bridge or whatnot. Give us some people who may not be familiar with that, some of the key distinctions between what you guys are doing and other projects beyond just the privacy side.
We are mainly like focusing on privacy, but on the infrastructure level, we're using the Cosmos SDK and Tendermint consensus, which means that we are a delegated proof of stake chain. So block times, for example, are like 6 to 7 seconds, which is fast. And we have IBC, which is the sort of like the Cosmos bridge. So you can send tokens and messages to other Cosmos chains, like the Cosmos Hub, like Osmosis and stuff like that. But yeah, we're mostly focusing on like smart contracts that have privacy.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are some of the most popular, I guess, dApps or whatnot that might be out? Are any of them are pretty much mainstream already, to where people can probably get plugged in and find out more? And I'm just, because for social media, that's the biggest thing for me, is not having having a overhead that's telling me what I can and can't say. So as far as social media platforms, anything of that nature developed yet and operational that offers community as well as some of the privacy features behind it?
Yeah, I know of a couple of projects that are doing social media. I don't think that any of them is operational yet. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the names, but I can send you links later. We're seeing a lot of DeFis like AMMs and lending. There's a new stablecoin protocol being developed, staking derivatives, like STETH, if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
We're seeing like a few games being developed, which I think might be the killer feature of Secret, because who doesn't like to play games?
Right.
Yeah. A lot of NFT mints, which utilize like a public side and a private side. So for example, with simple like JPEGs, you can have like, let's say we're doing secret punks. So you see the punk face on the public side, and on the private side, you have like a cool background or stuff like that. And the private side, only the owner can see. But that's just like a dumb example. People are doing like a lot of complex things with the private side of things in NFTs. And so artists love it. Like I mentioned, Quentin Tarantino and Kevin Smith are doing stuff with movies.
The biggest thing was just being able to connect and get your thoughts on, the idea of privacy and the importance of it. And I think you did a good job of laying that out. So as we get ready to draw towards the end, in reference to if people are just coming across, Secret Network for the first time, share with them some of your some key things that brought you in as far as wanting to steer towards privacy and helping develop that further. Because I'm assuming that's of importance to you. That's probably why you're part of the team. But when it comes to privacy in the blockchain space, what are some things that you might want to, some parting words to give people?
Yeah. So actually, my first encounter with like Web3 was on Ethereum back in 2016, and I tried to build like a game, but couldn't do it. I didn't know at the time, but I was missing some privacy features. And then when back in 2019, when I was interviewing for Secret Labs, like it just like clicked for me that on Secret Network, I would be able to do this very simply. Like I didn't mention it up until now, but with privacy, you also get on-chain randomness for free. So you can use randomness in your app, which is a thing that you can do on Ethereum, for example, because everything needs to be deterministic. So like if you're playing a game and you need to roll a dice, then everyone will know what the result will be ahead of time because it's all deterministic. So
yeah,
on Secret, you can store privately let's say the result or the how to compute the result before you reveal it to everyone else.
So that definitely makes a world of a difference just on the gaming side of things. But then you also mentioned the financial side of things as well as to why just a little bit of privacy goes a long way as far as keeping I think real trust available, because you're not people can't use that against you in a sense in a very dangerous way to try to harm you as far as arbitrage and things of that nature. So that's definitely one of the benefits I think that a lot of people haven't really considered, especially in the DeFi space. But yeah, so no, once again, we're learning, and so I just wanted to connect and just find out more about Secret as well as get your thoughts on privacy, because I'm looking to get into more investigative work on trying to sniff out this open source, the difference between private and open source, and some of the pros and cons. So, but I appreciate you for sharing your thoughts. So thank you for joining us on RT Interviews.
Thank you.